Hi, Dave Robbins here with Shields Real Estate again. Today I just want to talk about the buyer agency side, the purchasing part of a contract. I won't be able to get through it all because it's going to take way too much time to do that. So I'm going to break this down probably into 2 or 3 different videos. And hopefully if you need more information faster, you can give me a call at 719-332-9967 or send me an email at D as in David Robbins, Robbins, at erashields.com. I'll answer your questions and help you out from there. My website, you're on the website now, Dave at DaveRobbinsSellsColoradoSprings.com. So really appreciate that. There will be future bits and videos from the gals that I use at the title companies. They are full of good, pertinent data that I think every buyer should start getting used to and get more information on the buying process. Agency, that's the first thing you look at. Buyer agency or transaction broker. I always work toward being the buyer agent, working in your best behalf. The only time I'd be a transaction broker would be if I have the listing already on the market and that listing becomes a point of interest for you and something that you're interested. And then I have to be what's called the transaction broker. Transaction broker means I'm still going to provide all the data to you, the buyer, everything I know about the property, and I have to do the same thing, you and your information and your ability to purchase to the seller. So, but it's just terminology in that regard. One of the things that I like to do with a buyer, and it's on the website and you can pull it up, and that's the buyer book. You'll see it in there. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to be going through in the buyer book, there's a graph on page 3 so that you can actually just follow through the steps in the home buying process. By having a picture, I think a lot of people get a better idea of the whole process. So that really makes something that's complicated a lot simpler for a buyer, especially if you're a first time. I know every state has a different process for purchasing. When you do purchase a property, obviously the first thing you're going to do is make an offer. Write up an offer, send it in, and hope that they take that without countering. Should they counter, you'll end up with your counter proposal with all the different terms and conditions, of course, on the property. Now, the offer itself is usually about 17 to 19 pages long, so it gets pretty lengthy in this whole process. As a matter of fact, by the time you're done purchasing a home, it can be a stack of 2 inches tall of paperwork, even though we're supposedly in a paperless society. All this, of course, is done over the internet. So it doesn't matter. I've dealt with people, Korea, Germany, all over the world, Japan, selling homes and purchasing homes. Everything's done on the internet. On the offer itself, as a matter of fact, an important part I think that you need to know, everything is broken down. Pages 2 and 3 of the offer are the timetable. It's the calendar of events, as I call it. And I'm only going to try and get to a couple of these before time gets too lengthy, because it's just, I don't want to spend half an hour on a video. That's not good. But I'm going to try and get through at least the first few topics on this to help you out a little bit. When you do have an offer, obviously you're going to send money in. Earnest money goes with the offer. A seller wants to know that you sincerely want the property and that they'll take it off the market once you have an agreed upon purchase price and terms. So the earnest money is really an important part of the whole deal. If you're a VA buyer, I always try to get the earnest money back, most if not all of it. I've been able to do that for the past few years. Another thing that happens, again, this is our paperless society, so we have some addendums. And if you get away with 4 or 5 addendums, you're lucky. For the most part, you're going to end up with at least 6 addendums. We have the square footage addendum. That's because of legislation in the past, or I should say lawsuit in the past, where somebody purchased a home, thought it was bigger than it really was, so hence they paid more per square footage than they really thought they were getting. So they felt shorted, they were, and now we've got a new addendum to make sure everyone knows the square footage. Another one is the source of water. Again, someone bought a property, they thought they had city water, they ended up on a well, they don't want well water, that's an issue. And again, that brings up an addendum. Then you have seller's property disclosure, and that's about 7 pages. Now that's when the seller states how he believes the condition of his property really is. Some people are pretty exact, others not so much. That's why after you go under contract, you want to do a physical inspection of the property and find out the real story on the property itself. In Colorado, as in probably many states, you're going to have a CO2 detector as a seller. They have to supply those in the home. So that's a real important issue right there. Closing instructions. Closing instructions, that's about a 5-page document. What that really does in summary is it allows the title insurance company that's being used to research the property, find out all the liens against the property, find out if there's any tax liens or encumbrances against the property. Same with the buyer. Some buyers, if they have a common name, Jones or Smith, something along that line, there's thousands and thousands of them. Some of them have debt that has not been paid off, and they've got to make sure that's not the person that's buying the property, because the lender always likes to be in first place, other than your taxes. Those are always in the first place. Excuse me. Once you are under contract, obviously you're going to, one of the very first things that's going to be in that chart that I showed you just a moment ago, is to do a physical inspection of the property. Once you do a physical inspection, and I always recommend somebody that's licensed and insured and really knows what they're doing, not someone that just puts a belt on with a screwdriver and a hammer and a flashlight. Excuse me. Once you have that, and or anything that's really major wrong with the property, we write up what's called an inspection objection, another document, because we're paperless. So we have this to work with. We write down the items that are of interest that we want the seller to take care of. A seller is not obligated to do any of that. He can do all of them if he wants. He can do some of them or none of them. If we're not happy with the results in the negotiations, and by the way, all of this is on time frame. When I showed you page 2 and 3 of the offer, that time schedule, everything has deadlines. So everything has to fall within those deadlines, and if it doesn't happen, the contract is null and void. You get your earnest money back. We go find another property. But it's really important to know that you can negotiate these factors back and forth. So hopefully that helps quite a bit. The next thing, while that is happening, at the very same time the inspection is going on, we want to get that done, by the way, right up front. Because if there is something that's a major issue we can't live with, we need a better situation, we get our earnest money back, go find another house. We do not want to spend the money to get an appraisal done until all of that is taken care of. At the same time, the title insurance company is also pulling a record to find out what are the liens or encumbrances against the property. Here in Colorado, especially in Colorado Springs, you don't get rights to the oil or any minerals underground. In some places around here, you will also notice that there are easements for the air above your property, and that's because of flight patterns at the Air Force Academy, or perhaps if you're on the eastern part of Colorado Springs, up at Peterson Air Force Base, or the airport itself. So there's all kinds of little elements that come into play. There's a lot to it, and I'm just barely touching the surface here. I am going to have a title insurance company get into owner's extended coverage if the seller is going to pay for title, or if the buyer wants to pay for the title, and you choose the title insurance company itself. Many people do not understand what title insurance is for, why they have that. And now I'm looking at my watch, and I think I've already gone longer than I wanted to, and I haven't really got started. So I'll pick up again, and we'll do another one and continue this next week. Thanks for your time.